Stick with me as we talk about if the Mandela Effect has affected frequencies in the body. So, I finally got a reason to actually use my jaw harp a little. And how often do I get to play this on camera? I'm going to talk about frequency, and this is kind of a good example of frequency, but I'm also going to get pretty deep into this because there's a lot maybe you don't know about frequency. I think it's important before we discuss the Mandela Effect, how it's affected all these frequencies in your body, or if they've changed. I think we need to actually learn a little bit about how they work. There was actually a pretty interesting study I'm going to start out with. There was a guy named Luc Montagnier, and you might remember him because he did some work on the HIV virus that won a Nobel Prize. What's really interesting is he got into the frequency of DNA. He started doing some experiments. A lot of people don't realize that the little DNA in the cell not only receives frequencies from the planet and the cosmos and other people and other frequencies around it, it can absorb frequencies. It can also transmit frequencies at a very low level. And he did a really interesting experiment that what he did is he took some water test tubes and lined them next to each other, put them right next to each other, and then he cut up a piece of DNA and dropped all the components in. So this piece of DNA was not a functioning piece of DNA. It was just pieces floating around. And they hit it with like electricity and tried to make it do something so the DNA would form into a proper DNA molecule. See, there's always been a big debate. I remember when I was a kid, they were trying to figure out how life started. And they were trying to say that lightning came in and struck a big organic pool of compounds and amino acids were created, and somehow that magically just assembled life. So I don't think this guy really bought that life can only come from other life. So what that means is when he put these two test tubes next to each other, the pieces of DNA wouldn't do anything until he put a full functioning piece of DNA next to it. And just the presence of them being near each other, the full functional DNA put off a frequency that caused the pieces of DNA to reassemble and become DNA. So they think that is how life basically communicates with each other. It has frequencies that encourage it to form into life forms. What he also found was really interesting is if you took the DNA out of the water, that the water still held the frequency. You could drop a bunch of pieces of DNA in and they would start to reassemble. Pretty amazing stuff to prove that DNA can basically be a little transmitter towards all the other cells in your body to encourage them to assemble new DNA and clone itself. Most scientists these days admit that frequency really makes up everything, that matter is just kind of a state of frequency. And as you raise the frequencies, matters change, disappear, rearrange, and lower them. So it would make sense that our body likes certain frequencies. Now, I did a video a little while back about my idea on how to make a free energy machine. I had this idea in my head for a lot of years, and I was like, maybe someone's smart enough to figure it out. I'll throw the idea out. I'm going to link that. You can see that. Right now there's a little eye icon appearing up in the corner. You can click that if you want to see that video. But I explained something called the Schulman resonance. In other words, I get a little deeper. I'm just going to kind of gloss over it here. But the frequency of the Earth in the ionosphere, the pressure that's created between them, creates a frequency that is 7.83. And it's also known as the Schulman's resonance. Life kind of tuned into this frequency and really likes it, including your DNA and including pretty much all living creatures like this frequency because they've grown up with it and they've tuned into it. In other words, if I take you and put you in a bunker underground and cut this frequency off, you will pretty much start to lose your marbles and feel very depressed and not feel good. There was experiments where they were sticking people in bunkers and then they would remove the frequency and put it back in, and everybody would get better and their health would get better. So Schulman frequency is pretty important. I actually even use some devices in my practice to help nerves rebuild, and you'll see a little 7.83 setting on that, which got me interested in other frequencies. And there were these things. I had a Rife machine in my practice that runs on frequencies, and they're pretty interesting. And then some practitioners, I do not use it, but some practitioners really get into tuning forks. And they say that different chakras have their own frequencies. Also, they even go further that it's also called the love frequency. You'll see some of Dr. Horowitz's work about 528, and you can kind of hear that ring. This is supposed to inspire DNA to repair itself, and it's the frequency DNA likes. It's also supposed to be a miracle frequency where ancient ceremonies used to hit that frequency when they basically were praying for miracles. I don't know how much validity is in that. It sounds nice when I play with it, but I haven't really seen any huge life changes. Point being, though, that these frequencies are real and they do affect your body. And there are some practitioners that make their whole practice around frequencies. And I'm kind of making this video for you guys because I'm curious. I don't really use much frequency stuff in my practice, but I know some of you watching do, or you go to a doctor that does. I really want to know if the Mandela Effect has affected those body and chakra frequencies. Are they still the same, or are they starting to change? Like, are these people coming in with tuning forks and doing work and it's not really working that well anymore? Like, have the frequencies changed? Do we have to adapt? I've actually heard people say the Schulman frequency, the 7.83 that the Earth is on, that's not right anymore, that it's gone up to a higher vibration. I don't know. I've just kind of heard that through comments. If any of you guys know more about that, please leave some links in the comments, and I'd be really curious because I've got these devices that run on the Schulman frequency, and it would kind of stink if they don't work anymore. But what happened? Because a lot of people believe the Mandela Effect is that the Earth is starting to vibrate higher and faster and moving slowly into a new dimension. If that's happening, it kind of makes sense that our frequencies don't work anymore the way they used to work, because probably bodies are changing their frequencies. So if you practice and you do a lot of healing with chakras and things like that, I'd really like your feedback and comments on this because it's kind of out of my wheelhouse. But I'm really curious. Although this has nothing to do with the story, it does give me a chance to play more jaw harp. And I kind of want to play some Bee Gees because I feel bad. I know that it's, that song, How Deep Is Your Love? They did not change it. It is, I really need to know. Not, what is it? I really need to learn now. So, there's my Bee Gees. Yeah, isn't this thing awesome? Go get one. I appreciate you listening. By the way, if this is your first time on my channel, I do a lot more stories than Mandela stories, but I say Mandela stories. I always mix that up. Mandela stories. If you look around my channel, you'll see a bunch of old stories as well. I do also host a live chat on Thursday nights if you want to meet some other Mandela Effect people and actually get a chance to interact and make some friends with them. All you have to do is tune in 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on this channel, and you will see a live stream most of the time. Other thing is you can check out my private unlisted videos over at my website, TerranLupo.com. Those are always free. All you have to do is sign up. So I'd really like to know if you think the frequencies have changed. because I really need to know. See what I did there?